But in the end, she was... Today, we're going to be talking about problems and drama. I'm struck at how many people find in their lives that they have these incredible patterns where there's problem after problem after problem after problem. There's drama. And I'm struck by the teaching of Tony Robbins. As you know, I've done all his training and I'm a senior leader. Yeah. And one of the things that struck me when I went to Date with Destiny particularly was his view that many people feed off the drama, feed off the problems. Yeah. Now, I think it's important to say, I'm not talking about, the significant problems that people have and they are one-offs. I'm talking about the people who have a pattern. Yes. And the pattern is that there's lots of drama, lots of difficulty. Yes. Or the people who find that they're ill a lot, but we're not talking about the serious illnesses. We're talking about the fact that whenever you see them, there's something else wrong with them. And I believe that one of the reasons that people do that is because they've almost been trained to do it. Yes. That when they were young, they got attention from their parents, from their teachers, when they were not well. But when they were feeling fine, no attention. When they were feeling unwell, attention. Yes. And the same in terms of behaviours. If they were being good, not noticed. If they were being naughty, lots of attention. Yes. And if we need attention, we'll have it on pretty well any terms.
Yes, yes. If you can't get positive attention, then the next best thing is negative attention, isn't it?
Well, yeah, attention on any terms. If your need is for significance, if your need is to be demonstrated that people care enough to spend time and attention, then you will have it on any terms. And I can remember talking to, particularly to inexperienced teachers, saying it's no good just recognising when children do things wrong, because you're giving them attention, but you're not giving them attention when they are doing things well. Yeah. And so for those children who need attention, what you're doing is you're training them to be naughty. Yes. So let's think about this. And I think I need to make the differentiation between problems and drama. Yes. There are many people whose lives are consistently full of drama. Yeah. They lurch from one situation to another. Yeah. And their dramas are often things that other people take in their stride. That they make mountains out of molehills. They dramatise. They make things seem important when actually they're not. Yes. And Tony Robbins talks about people being addicted to that, being one of the greatest addictions of our time.
Yeah, we put the phrase in sort of the header, didn't we, really, about his writings, his teaching are that if you find yourself constantly in a similar situation, a similar problem, a similar scenario, then it's probably because you're getting something out of it.
He talks about the positive intention, and that's it's not his phrase, it comes from neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, that everything we do has a positive intention. Yes. Now, that positive intention is it's giving us something. Yes. So let's use the example of smoking. We know that smoking is bad for us. There's plenty of evidence now to make it clear that if you smoke, then you are increasing your chances of getting cancer and heart disease and so on. And yet people still do it. Yes. Now, it's interesting when you talk to smokers, why do they smoke? And they'll talk about, well, it helps me keep my weight down. Right. Or it calms me down. I use it to help me manage stress. Yes. But what I find interesting, if you dig a bit deeper, how many smokers will say, but I get 5 minutes to myself.
Right.
That it's time out. And because the only way they can smoke these days is to go outside, to go away from, that the positive intention, completely unconscious until you start to talk about it,
yes,
is I give myself permission to go and have 5 minutes me time. And they're very loath to give that up because the rest of their lives is so busy, so frenetic and so on. So we have a positive intention pretty well in everything we do.
It's very interesting, actually.
But not necessarily conscious.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people present with symptoms, that they call my problem is, and they'll give you a label.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, is it true to say that never, in the vast majority of cases, I would argue, that first problem definition is not the actual problem. It's a symptom of something, but they define it as the problem, the thing they need to solve.
Yeah.
I need,
if I could solve that, then everything
I'm smoking. Well, I need to stop smoking.
Yes.
But actually, what they need to say is, I need to prioritise myself, and if I need 5 minutes to myself, I should just take it. I don't need to have a narcotic to give me an excuse to take it.
Give me permission.
To give you permission. Yeah.
And I think that's true. And what I would always make the differentiation between, this is about patterns of behaviour.
Yes.
Not one-offs.
No.
And it's interesting how often people don't recognise that there is, in fact, a pattern of behaviour. So let me give you some examples. I'm going to use one of Tony Robbins' examples. And I actually watched this intervention. We asked the question, is there anybody here who has considered suicide or has known somebody who's taken their life? Now, bearing in mind that for young men, actually men under the age of 40, I believe, it's the single most common reason for death in the UK is suicide. I think
that's a scary stat.
That is a tragic statistic. So this young girl, she was about 14 or 15, and he brought her onto stage. Now, I have to say that I believe that Tony Robbins is very, very careful. There are very detailed questionnaires. There are people who are trained to be there to support people through. Even those who weren't seen on stage were supported. And I absolutely applaud him for that, because I've been and watched other speakers who have not had the same level of care. And this young lady was on stage, and we were quite shocked, because his first statement, when she'd said, well, I've tried suicide 7 times, it was, we're not very good at it, are you?
No, which, let's face it, most people would not have the confidence to be so ballsy and upfront about naming the problem.
And as he started to work with this young lady, and this intervention took several hours, and I have to say it was done with huge care and huge humanity. It turns out that the young lady in question attempted suicide. Her parents were separated and at each other's throats most of the time, very acrimonious. But the one time when they came together in harmony was in the aftermath of her attempted suicides. So he sat her to one side, and her parents were there. They brought her because they were so worried about her. That's their purpose for coming. And to start with, we were all a bit surprised that he just, having got that information, and in fact at the time I don't think we actually recognised that that's the inference that he'd taken from it. He put it to one side and he brought the parents up. And most of his intervention was not with the young girl, but with the parents. And what came out of it was, you are training your daughter that the only time that you two can be civil to one another and can be loving is when she has gone to the extreme lengths of attempting suicide. So, your pattern of behaviour is creating a pattern of behaviour that is incredibly destructive, because one of these days it's perfectly possible that she'll get it wrong and she'll succeed.
But the parents separated?
I believe they were separated, but there was a lot of contact.
Okay, so effectively still living in a family structure that was recognisable as a family structure.
Now, he would also talk about the fact, in terms of the modes of motivation, that some people are addicted, or no, that's not, are needing uncertainty, and so will pick a row. Because if things get too certain and samey, they'll pick a row in order to make it uncertain. Okay. So this is not a one level issue. It's multi-layered. And I think if you're in a situation where you consistently have a pattern of drama or problems in your life, it's probably a time to get some help to help you unpick all of this.
Yeah, because, I mean, the analogy of the layers of the onion is relevant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think people are relatively sort of simple beasts in that they sense that if they solve one problem, then they'll be fine. But in peeling the layer of an onion, you simply reveal another layer, which is, slightly different, slightly
deeper,
sort of similar but not quite.
Yeah.
And then you find actually that in living in this new layer, you are repeating similar patterns, but they're not quite the same. So you don't recognise them straight off. No. You don't go, oh, hang on,
they're sneaky. They're very sneaky.
So they sneak up on you, and then you're in this behavioural pattern of.
Just to go back to the case that we saw, Tony then went back to the young lady, and started to work on her self-confidence.
Yeah.
She was dressed like a goth. She was someone who was not part of the crowd in school.
Yeah,
she felt unloved. Okay. Now there were 2,500 people at this course, and over the that was, I think, the first day. Over the 5 days, her confidence was built. She came back at time and time again. And one of the things that I really value about his work is that he follows things through.
Yes.
And so at the next course, she had been followed through, and we saw that actually she was doing really, really well.
Right.
And I think it's really important that if somebody's working with someone who is finding that they've got a pattern of drama and problems, that it's not a quick fix. It's something that you, again, have to go layer by layer by layer to get to the heart of the problem.
Yes.
For me, I think at the nub of most challenges are self-belief, self-confidence, the view that we are not enough.
Yes.
And part of the drama, part of the problems is in that trying to prove to ourselves, actually, either people trying to prove, well, I told you I wasn't enough, I told you I was no good enough, because that confirms their belief.
Yes.
Or at the opposite end of the spectrum, people working to help themselves recognise that they are enough. You don't need the problem in order to be noticed. You don't need the problem in order to be important.
But a lot of people seem to identify themselves as those problems.
Well, they'll use, my depression, my whatever.
Yes.
It becomes their identity.
That can be very true, can't it? And that there are labels that people will give themselves. We can be sitting in a forum and somebody will announce that they are I'm a sexual abuse survivor.
Yeah.
And these labels are very laudable. Yeah. And also they're very useful, aren't they? In that, for the purpose of communication, they're a quick, sudden sort of hanger that people can go, oh right, so this person is about this.
Yes.
And these are all sort of, modes of communication that we use. But labels such as that, if they are then continually used,
they can become destructive.
Well, there's the sense of creating, creating a story around the problem, the issue, attaching the label to it, and then having that become just a different type of prison to perhaps the root of where the problem came from.
Let's use the issue of illness or disability.
Yeah.
And I more than most, do not underestimate the problem of dealing with chronic illness, disability, or even an acute illness that stops you in your tracks.
Yes.
But I'm reminded there's a person who is very much in the public eye that I know, who uses her illness, and that's who she is.
Right.
And so she talks about everything as related to her illness.
Yes.
And I struggle a bit with that. I have to say it triggers me somewhat, because for me, a disability or an illness is something that you have to deal with, but it's not who you are. And I think for me, all of the work that I've done on myself and with others is about okay, you've got this problem, but how do you overcome it? How do you minimise that?
Yeah.
Rather than making it something that becomes pretty well the only topic of conversation that you have. It's brought into every conversation, whether you're talking about shopping or the telly or work. It becomes that part of the conversation. Now, is it a problem for her? Well, she doesn't think so because she's using it. But what I think the danger is that if you are defined by the problem, then your horizons become more limited.
Yeah, I mean, you are in effect holding time still, or at least attempting to try and hold time still by continuing to refer to a situation. And you know, time does move a problem on, even if you were to do
if you
nothing,
allow it to.
Yeah, but even if you are, I think, you know, even if you try to stay stuck, time will move past you, and the perspective on your issue will change.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with you, and I'll explain why. I've met people who have been bereaved, and they've lost people that they've loved very, very deeply.
Yeah.
And they go through a grieving process, which is incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
And there are some people who stay in that. Their life stops.
Yes.
And no amount of time has seemed to move them beyond that place.
Right. Yep.
Where other people grieve and miss the person, but have made the decision that actually life goes on, and I'm going to carry on living rather than staying stuck in this cave of grief.
Yes.
I've also known people who have where relationships have broken down, and they're not prepared to trust anybody ever again. They're stuck in that fear that I'll get hurt. They're lonely and they don't want to be, but their very fear of being hurt keeps them stuck in the place that they don't want to be.
Yeah.
But I want to go back, if I may, to these patterns of drama.
Yes.
Because I think what we've just been describing is a bit different.
Yes.
With being stuck in that place in time and you're not prepared to move forward. And in a sense, I suppose you're stuck in a drama. But it's when people have repeated dramas, which are slightly different, but they're the same. The drama of repeatedly having broken relationships.
Yes.
The drama of everything in the family is a problem.
Yes.
Lots of rows, people being affronted, people being very ready to stand on their dignity or on their high horse.
How about the drama of desperately avoiding conflict and
absolutely,
you know,
and it has consequences
like that. Yes.
You know, the drama and the problems take many, many forms.
Yes.
And for me, the challenge in the first instance is recognizing that there is a pattern, because people are so deeply enmeshed in what's going on. That they don't recognise that there is a pattern. And I think, you know, being able to take a step back and be quite clinical for a moment and look at your own life and identify, have I got patterns of the same sort of thing, the same sort of problem? You know, is that a money problem? Well, am I somebody who is consistently in debt? Or is that because you are using shopping as a way of feeling better about yourself? Is it a relationship issue? Are you consistently going for the same sort of person? Or going for somebody that you like, and huge chemical reaction, and you know, there's lust, and but your view is, well, I don't like this about them, but I'll change them. And then you fail to change them. You know, there are many, many patterns that have disastrous consequences. For me, the important thing is to recognise you are the common denominator.
Yes.
You take you into every second of your life, from the moment you're born until the moment you'll die.
Yes.
And so it's very easy to look at the externals and think, oh, I've been unlucky. There's all of these people or all these situations. You know, I've been people don't recognise my worth at work, or I'm always passed over for promotion. But if that's the case, look to you.
Yes.
Are you behaving at work in a way that shows your boss that you are ready for a promotion?
Yeah.
Are you someone who goes the extra mile?
Yeah.
In a relationship, you know, if you're always going for the same type of person, then that's disastrous. Well, why are you going for the same sort of person?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's very true that that looking inside oneself and being truthful, you know, especially the shadowed side of ourselves.
Oh.
It's lovely to be able to say, oh, I'm a nice person, I'm this, that and the other, although some people find that very hard to do.
Yeah.
But actually confronting the bits that are dark and difficult, the fear, the lack of courage and all of this. I mean, I was made aware of a particular lady who suffers from agoraphobia. Her response to this is laudable to an extent, in that she is so determined to get over her agoraphobia that she has a rule that she must go out of the house every day. So, but now she's just created a different type of prison, because now she gets anxious if she can't leave the house, because then she thinks she's going to fall back to agoraphobia.
So if she's fearful if she leaves that, she can't leave the house for a very good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If, for instance, the weather is really bad and it's just not possible to get out of the house, she then starts feeling really anxious about that fact, because she believes that she might get agoraphobia again. So
she's just replaced one problem for another.
Yeah, and I think that can be very common, that people pendulum swing from one extreme to the other, not realising that actually all they've done is replace one prison room with another prison room. But of course the reality is that very fine line, which is difficult to walk, is of balance, of being able to say, in that lady's example, for instance, yes, I have trouble with agoraphobia, and being outside and around people can feel very difficult for me at times. But I'm not going to make my life so hard on myself by then, you know, forcing myself to go and do it, even when there are circumstances beyond my control. I'm going to recognise that
it's the beating yourself up about not doing it.
I'm going to recognise that today, for reasons outside of my control, I can't do what I try to do in order to, you know, keep myself out and in the world. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. No. That's where the unbalance comes in, I think, in many people's approach to problems, is that they forget that in everything there is balance. Yes. If you are to achieve what most people would refer to as, you know, a healthy approach, a coping approach, capable approach to life.
Yes. I find it interesting that if you look at very, very small children, they go through life believing, or it appears that you know, the world is benign, that people love them, like them, that there is there's no question that they are enough. And that shift, as children become more aware of themselves as having an identity, how quickly those insecurities are installed.
Yes.
And then as we go through life, those insecurities become embedded unless something happens to change them.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, recognizing that having a belief in yourself, believing that you are enough, and working on that. Some people would think that was indulgence. For me, that's at the heart of everything, because once you believe that you are enough, that doesn't mean you're perfect, but it does mean that you are enough.
Yes.
Then you can start to look at those things with a level of honesty.
Yes.
That isn't about beating yourself up. It's about recognizing, these are my vulnerabilities.
Yes.
These are my issues. And there are other ways for me to solve that issue.
Yes.
But it comes down to awareness. And if you're not aware, how can you do anything about it?
Yes, so going back to the Tony Robbins example of that young girl, she probably wasn't thinking,
oh, it's all unconscious.
Yeah, right, I'll do another suicide attempt because then, you know, mum and dad will be, you know, that kind of scenario really would feel strange, wouldn't it? But So it was only at the point when somebody was brave enough to say what actually most people would shy away from and think, oh no, that's a bit too harsh.
Yes.
But because somebody named it and was just in the moment truthful.
I think it's the putting the mirror up and getting people to look. I mean, you can put the mirror up and people are very often not ready to look in the mirror.
Yes.
And I think it has to be done from a very secure place, that it's not about scoring points or making that other person wrong.
Yeah.
It's about, I'm holding the space for you.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to support you moving forward.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this pattern has become destructive. Now, that's a huge example. It's a very extreme example.
Yeah.
But I think, people who are engaged with us today, have a think about your own patterns of behaviour. And families are an incredibly rich source of recognising those patterns.
Yes.
We're triggered very much by our families, even in the families which get on really, really well. There will be things which trigger you.
Yes.
Because from a very early age, children know exactly which buttons to press in their parents to elicit guilt, to get what they want, to manipulate. It's a human thing. It's not a criticism.
No.
And parents are also programmed, in order to control their children and keep them safe, they also use guilt and a whole range of other things.
Yes.
Now it happens in every family, but it's when those things become either more extreme or more entrenched, or you've got people who already have patterns of their own baggage, that they then inflict that pattern on somebody else, and that baggage becomes somebody else's. Now, it happens for all of us. There's not a single person in this world who won't have patterns of behaviour that are less than healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think this is an opportunity for you to just think about your own life and think about, are there patterns of behaviour that you'd like to change? And are there patterns of other people's behaviour that trigger you into patterns of behaviour that you don't like, or that are uncomfortable, that make you unhappy, and so on?
Because I really feel that one thing's for sure is that when you start to think of the problems like that and to consider the possibility that you are creating these scenarios because you're getting something out of it, I think once you start to give it that perspective, you can't help but begin to move.
Things have already moved. As soon as you've got that perspective, that actually I am the catalyst here.
Yes.
And not only can you be the catalyst for things being unpleasant, you very much have the potential to be the catalyst to change things for the better.
Yes.
You can't change other people. We've said that so many times. What you can do is change yourself. You can change your behaviours. You can change your reactions.
Yes.
And in the doing of that, then that has an impact on other people.
Yes.
It's not instant, but over time it can make a huge difference.
That's why I think, challenging situations, being challenged is actually a very positive thing.
Absolutely.
Not that I'm very good at doing that to other people, or even to myself in moments, I'm just fallible as the next person. But ultimately, I think to stay repeating the same upsets, the same, because it gets quite boring.
Yes, it does. And the trouble is, then it's a bit like all addictions. The drama isn't enough, so the dramas get bigger, in the same way that if you're a drug addict, you need more and more of the same to give you the same fit.
Yes.
So that really brings us to the end of today. I would be really grateful if you have any comments, that if this is something that's affected you, please let us know. If there are issues that you'd like covered in future sessions, then again, let us know. You can let us know through the website www.genuinely-u.com. That's www.genuinely-u.com. You can find my latest #1 best-selling book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success and Fulfillment. You can get a free digital download for that, and you can find the rest of my books and Rachel's book on Amazon and all good book platforms. So www.genuinely-you.com. Thanks very much for joining us. Look forward to being with you the next time. Take care. That's Gina Gardner, your host from Passion